Is it flipped over there? Well, I guess it doesn't matter because you see it over here.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I missed my phone. Shut up.
Maybe be an adult and bring it with you next time.
I mean, stuff happens, man. You just leave the house.
How do you leave the house without your phone?
I thought I had all my stuff with me. I didn't. And I'm phoneless today.
That's bad.
I know. It's fine.
I need my phone.
That's all right.
I mean, I can get without it, but I need it for, like, getting updates and stuff like that. And
Word. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, world. What's up, internet world? We're the News 19 Nerds. There you go. That's the mute. All right. I'm Michael.
I'm Leroy.
Leroy here for another live press play. Thank you for joining us on this Friday as you guys slowly start to come in. We got some good topics today. Some nice topics on a Friday, talking about a major milestone for PlayStation.
No, for Sony.
I mean, all right, sure.
Is it PlayStation or is it Sony? Because
it's both.
To me, I guess I differentiate the. Go ahead, continue.
No, I mean a major milestone for Sony or PlayStation. That's fine either way. Also, some issues with Warner Brothers again, and one of the big three.
We just need to call Warner Brothers can't get right.
Oh
because
man,
they stay in their own way.
Yeah, pretty much. And we might hit some other topics too, depending on what we get to with whatever.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah. Where you want to start?
Let's start with PlayStation.
All right, PlayStation turned 25.
So this is what I'm getting at. Did PlayStation turn 25 or did the PS1 turn 25? In other words, is each individual system their own entity or are we talking about the brand? So right. The brand PlayStation. So this came out December the 3rd, 1994. Mm-hmm. And this is the original PlayStation.
Big old PS1 fat.
PS1 fat.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what?
I guess we could talk about some of our memories of PlayStation 2 because I'm just thinking...
PlayStation 1.
Yeah, the memories of PlayStation 1. But I remember whenever I had to import certain games, some games you would have to flip upside down to get it to play for some reason. I don't know why the reader would do that.
So you owned the PS1?
My friend owned a PS1.
Okay.
Yeah. I never owned an original PS1.
Really? Mm-mm. How old were you?
Was it 93?
I literally just said it came out in 94, dude.
I already forgot.
It literally just said that.
I mean, you could say all kinds of stuff.
And North America dropped in September 1995.
With that awesome commercial with that man.
Yeah.
It was a great commercial. Go back and watch those old commercials on YouTube, man. The PlayStation and Namco. Talking about stuff sucking butt. It's great. Yeah, I remember flipping over PlayStations to get to like play different Japanese import games and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know
I feel like you might have flipped that one over us. What's going on?
Well, I'm trying to look at like the bottom of it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, it looks clean.
But the top of it, man, it's seen some better days.
Well, I mean, you kind of get that with any old system in terms of, you get that kind of yellowing effect, especially on like Nintendos and Super Nintendos and stuff.
So yeah, I bought that at an auction, so I gotta see if it works.
What's up, D. Stiesel?
So the PlayStation turns 25. Mm-hmm. So explain to people who may not know or just why the PlayStation took off. Because because remember, the Saturn was out at the same time.
So now people in the chat, y'all let me know and we'll work together to figure out exactly what's going on. But this is kind of what I remember. And I recently read an article on Polygon that did a great job. Super Nintendo was killing it in the market over Sega Genesis. Yep. That was a dominant console.
Yep.
A guy by the name of Ken Kutaragi, I think it's Ken Kutaragi.
Okay.
He designed the sound chip. Mm-hmm. He was still working at Sony, but he designed the sound chip for the Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. His bosses did not like that. And his higher-ups wanted to fire him, but like the main guy at Sony was like, it's all right, keep his job, whatever. So he was allowed to finish that sound chip. The Super Nintendo sound chip is known. People really like that sound chip. And a lot of times when you hear chip music, one of the chips they'll use is the Super Nintendo sound chip because it can do so much stuff. So time goes by. Ken Kutaragi, I'm messing that man's name up. He meets with Super Nintendo execs about, hey, let's develop some type of system together. A hybrid that would work with the Super Nintendo that uses a CD. Things are going well, but eventually Nintendo kind of backs out of the deal. Mm-hmm. I don't really know all the full reasons about why they backed that deal. But
does anybody know?
Some people know.
Has it-
is
has-
the real story ever gotten out?
That's
I
what
don't
I'm saying.
think
Has
so.
it ever said, because we all know that Sony and Nintendo were working on a super console, and we've seen designs of said console. But do we know why they split and didn't decide? Because that eventual split changed the world.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an official reason that's ever come out, and it's kind of there are conflicting reports about what happened, but I think the general consensus now is that Nintendo did pull out of the deal with Sony.
We know Nintendo pulled out.
Right.
Sony kept going with what they knew.
Yeah, but Sony also tried to work with Sega. Not a lot of people realize that. Before the Sega CD had just come out for Sega, and they were trying to figure out how they could further develop that thing. And Sony, you got a Sega CD over there somewhere?
Yep.
All right, yeah. Show and tell time, guys.
I didn't know we were going there, but
Yeah,
I actually do have one.
story time.
Oh wow! Guess what?
What? Another place. Wow, so you did have to bring in the other PlayStation.
And that one's actually clean.
That one is cleaner. We got PlayStations on PlayStations. I love it.
Keep going.
Man, if you put out another one, I'd be like, geez. Ken met with.
Oh, there's another. No, I was just joking.
Ken met with Sega people to work on some type of hybrid. Eventually, it's reported that Ken didn't like what was going on with Sega and what they wanted to do, and that deal, the Sega Sony deal, was not as well reported as the Sony Nintendo deal.
D. Steezel says it was called the Mega Drive. Is that correct, or it was Mega? I thought Mega Drive was the Japanese name for it.
Mega Drive was a Sega thing, yeah, for sure. There you go, in all its glory. What's in there now?
Sonic CD.
Okay, Sonic CD, fun game. Oh, will that even play?
Yeah, that'll play. It's just the top is dirty.
Okay. They met. Ken pulled out, and eventually, Ken met with his boss, and the report goes he kind of got his boss mad in terms of kind of reminding him of the deal that fell through with Nintendo. It's like, hey, remember how you kind of felt when Nintendo kind of punked us and walked out of the deal? Kind of reverse psychology that got the Sony top brass like, go ahead and make this system. Let's get into this video game market. Because at first, they didn't really want to get in the video game market. Ken got his wish. They made the system, and then you got PlayStation. That's a very short, truncated version. Better people can tell you more about it overall.
No wonder it's in better condition. It's refurbished.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, there's a disc in here too.
Man, we're just finding out stuff in all the stuff we have.
This is why my wife hates me, because
But-
I have stuff all over the place.
But Sony comes out, sells a PlayStation. They sell more than 100 million units of the original PlayStation.
This thing sold 100 million consoles.
And it was revolutionary at the time. Having that CD giving you more space than what was available on a typical cartridge.
Correct.
That was a sticking point with Nintendo. For some reason, and it probably goes kind of what Steve was saying in terms of money, Nintendo really liked having those licensing fees of making people pay for the cartridge. They couldn't get those licensing fees anymore for CDs because CDs were widely available. Because essentially every time where people were making Super Nintendo cartridges, they were paying a licensing fee to Super Nintendo to
For each cartridge.
Yeah, well, probably in like a bulk lot or whatever, but yeah. But yeah, they couldn't get that licensing fee on the CD, and there's more space on it overall, and it just took off. What is your memory for you of like Sony PlayStation?
Honestly, so the PS1, my memory is I was in the Navy. I was just turned old enough to join. I was 17. I was in the barracks, and this guy, now I'll never forget his name. His name was David. Him and some of the older guys who when I was stationed in the Navy, I went the Great Lakes for boot camp. Once you graduated boot camp, you went to the barracks and you went to what's called your school, your A school or your C school, like that. I was in engineering, so I went to an engineering barracks with amongst other engineers. So guys who had been in the Navy who came back to train in this particular profession or this field. So as I was 17, I'm with guys who are my age now, who had just bought the Sega Saturn and the Sega and the PlayStation. So they had been playing the Saturn and they had been playing Panzer Dragoon. And I remember, because I was like, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, what is this? Because I'd gotten out of video games for a while because I hit that age where I was like, ooh, girls. And I was like, what is going on with my body? And what is this hair on my face? Like, it literally was like,
You were Teen Wolf.
I was changing. So I wasn't playing a lot of video games. They were playing the Sega Saturn. And I will admit, the Saturn interests me because I was always a Sega person. And so I was always felt like Sega, I don't want to say superior, but it's brand loyalty. So I was attracted to the Saturn because it was such a huge box. And it was heavy. And it was, the controls, I just liked it. And so we played that. And then another one of the guys, David, had bought a PlayStation. And he was like, Sony just made a console. And I was like, a what? And they were like, he brought this to the Bears.
Yeah.
So we had two systems, two guys, and the guys who brought this in, he actually had the Japanese PlayStation.
Okay.
Because they had been stationed in their ship was their ship was a Japanese. They were stationed in Japan. Sorry, they were stationed in one group of guys was from Okinawa. Another group of guys was from the base that was in Japan. So when they showed up, they had the actual Japanese PlayStation, and we had games, and we had no idea what was on them.
Right.
Like we couldn't read any of this, and I just remember like, oh my gosh, I found my tribe again, and it was just so interesting playing. So then, fast forward to I get to the ship, I get to my ship, and we are playing football games. We're playing all kind of games, and everybody was still consoles and still Sega, and the game that changed everything was this. It wasn't for me. It wasn't until Metal Gear Solid.
Now, did you play Metal Gear on like the
Nope.
the PC and the Nintendo and stuff?
Nope,
Okay.
never played Metal Gear on any of those.
Okay.
I will say that I liked Metal Gear. I loved the whole because I don't know if were you old enough, because we used to always play this game where it was on the back of magazines and stuff like that, the Metal Gear and all the stuff you could get, and so like what would you have out of the 3 slots?
Oh, okay.
And so we used to play this game in school when I was a kid. What would you use? Would you carry the gun? Would you carry this? Because there was all these different items you could have, but you could only. So we scaled it down to if you could only carry 3 things, what would you carry?
Okay.
And so I never really played the game. I got to my ship. This game came out, and this game literally was like, what the honestly.
Yeah.
We played that game. This game I'll never forget. We had grown men sitting watching when people were like, how does Twitch work? I know Twitch was going to work because I remember playing Metal Gear Solid on the mess decks on my ship. The ship was rocking back and forth, and the engineering department made a space on the mess decks to slide the PlayStation in so it wouldn't shift when the ship moved. And we played Metal Gear Solid religiously.
Okay.
There were times when we would be playing the game and somebody was like, I can't get past this part, and someone would give up the sticks. And that's my earliest memory of the original PlayStation.
Did you guys have memory cards?
Yep.
Okay.
But only one person could play at a time. So we played one save and we finished the game, and then somebody else would play it.
Okay.
And we would do it. That's how we had to ration it, so
Right.
we would have 37 saves, because we also had other people playing other games.
Okay.
So yeah.
For me, my biggest memory, or first kind of major memory of PlayStation was my friend at his birthday party. His mom and dad got him a PlayStation and Final Fantasy VII. And I was already playing JRPGs before that because I was playing Breath of the Wild. And I hadn't played any of the Final Fantasies yet, but I was playing Breath of the Wild 1 and 2 made by Capcom. Might have played a Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest because one of my friends he was Japanese, so he kind of got me into all that stuff in terms of like watching anime and all that kind of stuff. So he kind of really started me on that. And so he got Final Fantasy VII, and I remember staying up playing it longer than he actually did because you remember like that campaign blitz for Final Fantasy VII, all the commercials everywhere.
Yep.
Those commercials never really told you. They made it seem like this great adventure, but I can look back at it now.
Never told you anything.
Yeah, you never.
It was
really
all
knew,
hype, no substance.
Right, you never really knew exactly what you were doing in the game. So once we started playing it, he lost interest.
Yeah,
because he's like, I don't want to play this, but I was loving it. So I remember playing Final Fantasy VII throughout his birthday party that night. Yeah, that was my big memory for PlayStation.
So what always struck me was that Nintendo did not. I guess the thing that always got me about this whole video game thing, Sony, and I say this, I don't say it lightly. Sony did change the world with this PlayStation because before it was a two-man race it was a two-horse race between Nintendo and Sega.
Yeah.
It was always a two-person race between the two. After Atari fell off, it was always those two companies. And then Sony showed up and was like, to me, it was immediate with certain games. Madden. I remember on Sega, everybody, Pat Riley's basketball, Joe Montana's football, but it was the PlayStation with Madden, with those games.
Cool Borders.
Twisted Metal.
Yeah. Crash Bandicoot. Yeah.
Those games set a tone that I don't remember. Like, I remember PlayStation. I remember Sega when they first came out. I remember there being eBay games or Electronics Boutique. I remember KB Toys. PlayStation to me had a different feel. When I look back at it now and what they did, that Sony literally changed the world, because it almost seems like they changed gaming forever with their introduction into gaming.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Oh, for
you
sure.
Feel that way?
They really popularized, because PCs were doing it before a little bit, but not as intense in terms of CD-based games and media.
And see, we had CD-based. Like, I have literally a box of CD-based games over here.
But they didn't take off like PlayStation.
No. And I'll be honest with you, some of these games were better than some of the original PlayStation games.
Oh, for sure.
I still have. Now there's a company you hadn't heard from in a while, Paragon Software.
Yeah.
Like, I still have these Commodore 64 and 128. Like, I'd play these again.
We should try and do that.
I don't know how, but we can.
We should try and do that. But as great as it was, it was like just like a precursor for everything to come, right? Because it also helped introduce the idea of expendable memory in terms of having memory cards.
Yep.
Because before, when you had the cartridge, everything would just save on your cartridge, or you would do a big thing for some games were like passwords. Like Mega Man had passwords. You could never save on a Mega Man cartridge. It was just always passwords. What else? Oh, the PlayStation also helped introduce the idea of Rumble and DualShock stuff.
Yep.
In a controller, because before, that clunky controller was and then eventually you got this. Now this is a PlayStation 2 version, but there was a PS1 DualShock.
The gray controller.
Yeah, the gray controller that had the thumb knobs.
The gray lady.
That kind of helped give you the dual joysticks, because it just gave you a better sense of analog movement versus digital movement, which was great.
And it introduced the whole thumbstick, like you said, the analog, but it also, and again, I'm not knocking Nintendo, I'm not knocking Sega. It was something different that when the PlayStation started up, and it's something John Jay is talking about. I remember my cousin having the original PS1, and the only way it worked was by turning it on upside down. But I like that whole that gold Sony Entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that in certain games, especially for Metal Gear, that Konami symbol and those different things. Like, it's just, I got to give it to Sony. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And I don't even think they saw 25 years later they would be one of the most dominant companies when it comes to gaming and literally changing the world as it comes to gaming.
This last week, Guinness recognized them for what, 400 something?
So they have sold November the 7th, according to Guinness. Now, the tweet came out Tuesday, and it's in their 25th anniversary because Sony's going to do a big celebration for their thing. But by November the 7th, Sony, and this is before Black Friday, according to Guinness World Book of Records, on November 7th, Sony had sold over 450 million home consoles. The reason why I say home consoles, that is a big distinction, because that's not including the Vita, the portable,
yeah,
because that's Nintendo's domain. They have the records on handheld, and Nintendo's records are impressive, but Sony's impressive. 450 million home consoles
from PlayStation 1 through 4.
In a 25-year period. Think about that. They have 2 consoles that have sold over 100 million. Like that's.
So they probably have 3, right?
The PS3 only sold 80 million.
I was talking about PS2.
Yeah. So
PS1, PS2, and PS4.
Now, the reason why you're right. So 100 million for PS1, 100 million for PS4. PS2 was 120 million. So that's, I mean,
yeah.
It really, like, when you think about what they did and then take it one step further, PS2, there's one right there. The fact that it played DVDs, the fact that the PS3, and The Verge has a very good article. Go check it out. The PS3 was Blu-ray's ultimate Trojan horse. Yeah, with Sony,
every disc medium Sony's able to sneak in, like with the DVDs and then with Blu-rays and all that stuff.
True, but Sony missed the boat, I think, in the PS4. But what they did, I don't understand why they missed it with the PS4 Pro.
What do you mean?
The
4K stuff?
So I don't understand that because, so if you remember the PS3 and the Xbox 360 came out at the same time and there was HD DVD. Sony didn't have an add-on. They saw ahead of time. They were smart enough to see. And also, one of the things that, because Sony actually makes movies, they were able to see if we make a Blu-ray player in our game system, we could sell more units. And it worked out because literally, with Sony's help and the PlayStation's help, they dominated and made HD DVD a thing of the past, and Blu-ray took over as the dominant format.
Those are very hard to find now. I got to
Not really.
Sorry, it's not that they're hard to find, but they can be kind of pricey now because
they're
so you remember my friend Travis? You met him a couple times.
We'll say yeah.
Sure, whatever. He has like a really nice collection of old video game stuff. He has a HD DVD or whatever.
So you can get them. I had one. I sold it. I found it, flipped it. You can Eric. I think Eric has at Scratch and Spin has. I know he has the actual the HD DVDs. So it just seems to me that Sony was ahead of the times and ahead of the games. And my hat is off to them. As a company, they've done very well for themselves in the video game market. And it's interesting that they were able to celebrate 25 years in the business. And they're only going to get better, in my opinion.
Salen Maru says, DualShock greatest controller ever. I will always love the Super NES controller for me personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, granted, that's all for like old school 2D games. If I need something with 3D movement, obviously I do want some type of thumbsticks on there. But yeah, for like 2D games, give me an SNES pad. That the D-pad feels great on the SNES pad to me. The buttons feel great. The shoulders, all that stuff. Yeah.
I've always liked the DualShock. Just because of the way it fits in your hand. And it seems to be no matter how big your hand is, it works. And I've always liked that. I had the original Xbox and that controller was weird. I always
the
thought
Duke?
I thought it was clunky.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really did seem, I remember when Xbox came on the scene that they were going to do something big, but the original Xbox always seemed like a behemoth. It always seemed like a steampunk, because it always like a diesel engine. Like when it came on, it was like,
And I feel like they were going for that, though, right?
It's like a beast that awakened.
They wanted you to feel like this thing is massive.
And to me, though, the PlayStation always felt like sophistication. Whereas Xbox, to me, when it came out, was that brute that was just like literally, like I'm trying to remember when you remember watching Planet of the Apes when they were like the huge ape would come through and it's like just that's what it reminded me of. I always had appreciated PlayStation, and every time I try to get away from it, they get me. For you, what do you think? What do you think their mark is on the business?
I mean, it's a lasting mark, right? People are still always comparing themselves to what Sony's doing because they're typically now leading in most console generations. PS3 and Xbox 360 came out. Xbox 360 tended to dominate that console generation terms because PS3 kind of blew it from the beginning with the launch and all the price and all that stuff. Then PS4 and Xbox One came around. PS4 flipped it. PS4 was cool because you had so much power in it, and it was cheaper than the original when the Xbox first came out. It didn't have all this other stuff. It was just a game system, and they marketed towards that. Now, former Xbox head Don Matrick didn't help with what he was trying to do, and they eventually got rid of Don Matrick, and now he's off enjoying his millions and billions of dollars, so he'll be fine. And Phil Spencer's doing fine for Microsoft. But yeah, Sony kind of flipped it around for PS4, and it'll be interesting to see. Because almost in my mind, I feel like PS5 and whatever the Scarlet will eventually be named, I feel like they might come out within a week of each other. I could see that being true. And
we have no dates for it, so
right,
it's
and that would just be interesting to see when they come out, and then who's going to have the market share. Because right now, it's obviously PS4 because they're so far ahead of Xbox One. It would be interesting to see if they can flip it for Microsoft to take over. But yeah, Sony's the king right now. I
just don't feel like Microsoft has it in them to do it, just in the sense of. They at E3 they couldn't. They had E3 to themselves. Sony wasn't there, and even with Sony not being there, they still fumbled the ball, in my opinion.
You don't have any N64 controllers around, do you?
No.
Okay, I don't know. Cause you always got random stuff.
Yeah, I bring stuff that somebody like 64 controllers are valuable.
Okay. Because somebody brought up in the chat. Zaylen said they like the N64 controller. They always build that N64 controller as
All right. So. All right. This is when we need an engineer.
Yeah.
What about now?
Well, I'm trying to see if it'll come back in.
They hear us.
Do they hear us?
Yeah. Look at the chat. They got it. D. Steezel says it's a conspiracy to try to keep us down.
Okay.
D. Steezel, I agree with you. They're always trying to keep us down. They're trying to hold.
We out here
nerds
spitting
down.
truths on these people, and they don't want y'all to know the truth.
They don't want y'all to know. But no,
Yeah.
I always appreciated the video game wars only because I felt like when someone did something good, it would cause
Everybody
them-
copied it. You did something.
because I have nothing against Xbox. I try not to be that person who's like, yes, PlayStation's the best. But I will say Xbox Live is better than the whatever Sony put out.
Oh, yeah.
And I can say that because when you look at how easy it was and how they built that setup, Sony was behind, and they're still behind. They still haven't figured out how to do Game Pass like Xbox has. They
Yeah,
still haven't
PlayStation Plus is not,
No.
to me, it's not as good as Game Pass.
No, and not only that, one of my biggest sticking points was if I buy a game or if I have the Xbox Game Pass and I get a game, one of their free games, I own that game. They don't say you have to keep the Xbox Game Pass to play. You have to keep PlayStation Plus to keep playing those games that you get.
Well, Xbox Gold, the games you get, you keep.
That's what I'm saying.
But the ones in the Game Pass, you don't keep.
No, you're right. So
Yeah.
So when you get an Xbox Gold game, you get to keep that game
Right.
if you download it for that free game for the month.
Right.
You don't get to do that. You have to keep PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
And to me, it's weak sauce. Do
Yeah.
better, Sony. But I'm just kind of, when it said 25 years, I was just thinking, 25 years of Sony PlayStation, that brand name, that brand recognition, that's amazing. That really sets.
And how strong or how many cojones they have to be like, it's just always going to be a PlayStation. We're not going to be fancy PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
they trademark all the way to 10.
Yeah, we're not going to name it anything else, nothing fancy. We'll just keep calling it these, and it's worked. So
G.
power
Caesar
to
says
them.
they've had some epic fails. You're right. They have not done. Remember the light stick thingies that they
PlayStation Move.
Yeah,
Hey, PlayStation Move.
that's because you're a sucker.
That's because I need them for PlayStation VR.
But yeah, I remember the nunchucks.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing we'll talk about a failure was probably the iToy.
Oh yeah.
iToy was not, because I think we talked about this, the Cards of Judgment game that they made. I have the packs. Ain't doing nothing with them.
You ain't got nobody to play with.
Not really. Got nobody to play Eye of Judgment with. I got these packs. I'm over here like Yu-Gi-Oh, just waiting to slap these
Better
cards
train
down.
them nieces and nephews up. Hey, we gonna play this game. I don't want it. We gonna play this
We're
game.
gonna play this game. Don't worry about your new stuff. We're playing Eye of Judgment. Yeah. But yeah, Sony's doing it. We'll move on.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Just congratulations, Sony. I know you're paying attention and you're saying thank you, Leroy, Michael. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. You guys needed us to talk about you to
I know
make
you
money.
appreciate our support.
Right.
Through the years.
Yeah.
How many do you own? Let me ask you this. How many Sony consoles do you own? Because I know you own all of them, but how many of each do you own?
I mean, I own one PS4, one PS3. I think I own two PS2s because I had a slim one, and then I had to get an old fat PS2 and break it open so I could mod it. So I got two of those, and I might just have some PS1s lying around that I bought because they were cheap.
Yeah, I got a lot.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you had one you didn't realize was here.
Those are the ones I have here.
Right.
At the house, I have one PS4, a PS3. I know I got two PS2s somewhere. I've got probably at least. Total, I probably have 5 PS1s.
Man, that's wild.
So including these two, I probably have 5 PS1s. Well, part of the reason why is because, again, I got married. My wife owned a bunch of consoles as well. And so the ones that we play went in the house. The ones that we don't went in the storage. So I know I have a shelf of consoles.
John Donuts, man, nice to see you. We ain't seen you, man. I feel like I haven't seen John Donuts in a while.
Yeah.
We've seen everybody else, which is great.
Yeah.
Keep coming, chatting
Yeah.
with us, but it's nice to see John Donuts. Haven't seen him in a minute.
And I own a PSP and a Vita. Anyone want to buy it?
We got infiltrators in here, man.
How do we kick her out the chat?
I'm gonna let you do that. I'm not touching that, sir. I won't touch that.
How do we kick her out the chat?
Because at first I was like, oh wait, I know who it is. It's great. So yeah, next topic.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's move on. All right.
She done infiltrated.
All right, we got what? Talk about this. Troubles for Superman and Warner Brothers.
I don't even know if it's troubles or they just suck.
Maybe elaborate.
So earlier we got a report from, who is your article from?
This is Variety. Yeah.
So Variety reported that Warner Brothers took a meeting with Michael B. Jordan about Superman. And I don't know what that meeting was. We've gotten a little bit of information about kind of, sort of around, but no one knows exactly what it was. We just know the meeting happened. We know it surrounded Superman.
Michael B. Jordan, had plans for Superman.
Yep.
We don't know exactly what that was.
Mm-hmm.
We know he released this show called Raising Dion on Netflix.
Yep.
About a kid with powers.
Yep. Raised by his mom.
Yeah, we know he has the show on Rooster Teeth called Genlock.
Genlock.
He's doing a lot of stuff with people with powers and just like...
Well, Michael B. Jordan, for a lot of people who don't know, Michael B. Jordan is a huge nerd. And Michael B. Jordan talks about playing, was it Yu-Gi-Oh? Or watching Bleach, playing these games. Michael B. Jordan has a clothing line from Prada with anime characters on it. Michael B. Jordan is a huge nerd. Michael B. Jordan has talked about his love of anime. He's talked about that I am in this. Michael B. Jordan had a meeting with Warner Brothers about having an alternative black Superman. Go ahead.
Congratulations to John Donuts. Apparently he's in his last year of uni, so that's cool.
You know what uni is, right?
Man, because he's across the pond.
Yeah, university, yeah. You kept saying uni, like, I didn't. You know how some people say it, they don't know what it is?
Sir,
so they just...
I love the BBC. I know what uni is.
I don't know.
Okay?
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Doctor Who for life. Faulty Towers, y'all.
Okay.
That's right.
Calm down.
All right. Get off my soapbox. Go ahead.
So, there is a black Superman in continuity in Warner Brothers created by Grant Morrison. When he did the Multiversity, Grant Morrison said that if you think about it, Superman actually would be black. And he made a black Superman, Val-Zod. And because basically if Superman got his powers through the sun, he probably would be... So... that's just one person, one storyline. I'm not sure how I feel about Val-Zod or bringing in Michael B. Jordan to play Superman, only because I feel like Henry Cavill did not get a fair shake. And I will stand for Henry Cavill. I love Michael B. Jordan. I want him to play something. I don't think it should be Val-Zod. But I stand for Michael B. Jordan, but I stand for Henry Cavill just as well. My problem with all of this
Henry Cavill. You get one of these, man. Your biggest fan in the world.
I'm just saying. I just feel like Warner Brothers is dropping the ball because there's a report, multiple reports, that Warner Brothers does not know how to do Superman. Why is our video like that? We need better equipment, man.
We always say that. I mean, it'll clear up eventually, but you know...
Zayla Maru, he did not have 3 chances. You take that back. He had 1 chance. Man of Steel was good.
He had other chances to be Superman. It was called Batman v Superman.
Whoa!
He was in that movie.
We don't count that.
He was in that movie.
Cavalites don't stand by that.
Okay. He had Justice League.
Woo!
He was in that movie.
Zayla, I'll give you 2.5.
If anything, he had to be 2 Supermen in Dawn of Justice. Because he had one, then he had the reshoots with the mustache. He got to be multiple Supermens.
Y'all about to witness some murder. The murder weapon is going to be the same. I can't beat you with this because I got to sell it. The wife says I can't keep it.
He had all the Supermens.
But no, I feel like Warner Brothers, how do you have a franchise character, a world-renowned character, that is Superman? That's S. Might be more recognizable than the frickin' American flag. Like you could take that S to some country that doesn't have cable, and they probably could tell you that stands for Superman.
I don't know the numbers. You guys might know. I'm curious, like, what's more recognizable, the Superman crest or the Mickey Mouse logo? Like, I don't know the answer. and I'm too lazy to Google it right now. I'm just curious. I'm just throwing it out there. It'd be interesting to me.
This is where those marketing and those surveys come up. Like, who do you recognize this logo? Like, to take it to different countries and say,
yeah.
But no, I just feel like the fact that Warner Brothers doesn't know how to make a Superman movie tells me all I need to know about you as a, because if you can't do Superman, you can't do anything else.
They can do Aquaman.
If you can't do Superman, you can't.
They made $1 billion, man. They can do Aquaman. They got Aquaman 2 coming out eventually.
I stand by what I said, and I liked Aquaman. There were a lot of problems with it, but I like Aquaman.
And I like Henry Cavill overall. I would like to see him get another shot, because why not? He wasn't. Like my issue with Superman wasn't really Superman.
It's the movie.
The movie's just kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
But like him as an actor, he's fine.
I feel like if you can't get that right, then how do you get? Because this is the thing, and we talked about this a little bit in the newsroom, where people were like, Marvel's doing the Eternals, and how are they going to make that work? Or Black Widow, and it's like, they made y'all care about a fake tree and a raccoon. Really? Yeah. I'm like, until Marvel stumbles, I'm gonna believe that they can make anything happen.
And we said it in our reaction. Avery and I said it in our reaction to the Black Widow first trailer, teaser, whatever. We weren't overwhelmed by it, but we weren't really negative. We were just kind of like, and we'll give Marvel the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So it's not like we hated the trailer by any means. We're just, it didn't overwhelm us. And to me, it kind of reminded me of when we first saw the Captain Marvel, that first trailer, and you were kind of like, you didn't feel it, but you loved the movie.
I did like the movie.
So, I mean,
except for that one fight scene. I'm just a girl.
The music choices in that were kind of definitely on the nose.
It was like they beat you over the head with that. This is the 90s. Like, this is the 90s, and yes. I can't stand that song. Yeah. And as a fight scene, I was just like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, let's do better. Yeah. Now, I will say this. This is something interesting. Zaylon Maru brings up a good point. WB has kind of proved that they don't need Superman to be successful, and I agree with you. If they have shown that they did not in this last go round, they have taken characters that are not your marquee characters. If you really would have thought about it, you have a Batman movie without Batman and the Joker, and you have Shazam and Aquaman, who made almost $2 billion.
You know what it kind of reminds me of?
What?
How Marvel didn't have their marquee characters, and they made you care about, now you care about them, but you didn't before. You care about your Iron Man, you care about your Captain America.
I want to get some food. I had a question because I know you're leaving at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know y'all just live streaming right now.
What's the question?
Everybody say hi to Anna Grace.
Is this like news related?
Yeah.
Are you about to talk about a story?
Not. It's about. Kind of, yeah. I have a question.
I mean, is it like a serious story?
No. So, I have two questions. One, JR told me to cover his look live with B-roll, but they didn't shoot B-roll from Manning. So.
Put some other B-roll over that thing.
Does it matter?
That's what he got. That's what we got.
Okay, and then, actually, I can answer my own question for the other one. So.
Bye. Cool.
Have a good trip.
All right. Appreciate it.
I'll see you at 11.
Don't threaten me. Okay, but go back to what you were saying, that Marvel did the same thing. Marvel did not have the rights to Spider-Man. Marvel didn't have the rights to the X-Men. Yeah. So they had to make the Avengers happen. Yeah. They had to make Guardians of the Galaxy happen. I think for me, and John Donuts enjoyed Man of Steel. I can understand why people didn't like it. I can understand. There are little parts that I didn't like, but I like Man of Steel. I'm not going to lie. Man of Steel was the movie that I saw with my friends after my first date that I had with my now wife. So we had our date. We went and had sushi. That's what she liked. After we left, it was about 9 o'clock. Me and my buddies, I was off. We went to go see a midnight showing of Man of Steel. And I'll never forget, I enjoyed it. We actually liked it. But it does go to that Zayla Maru's point that you don't need Superman to be successful in your universe. But the problem I have with it is that this is one of your most marquee characters, and they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And he's not the Hulk, where the Hulk is a marquee character, but he's not Captain America. You know what I'm saying? He's not. The Hulk is that you can do a movie, or you can do, because you did a movie with Captain America without the Hulk.
Did you play the Injustice games?
Yes.
Because Ultra Instinct Goku brings up they weren't happy with the way Superman was handled in Injustice.
Now, for those of you who didn't play, probably everybody in here has played Injustice and knows that Superman loses it because the Joker loses it and actually kills Lois, and then Superman loses it and kills the Joker.
Okay, sure, all right.
Well,
I thought it was that the Joker tricked Superman into killing Lois, and then he just snapped and killed the Joker.
I thought the Joker killed Lois, and then he snapped and killed.
Lois dead.
Look,
some way or another.
Somebody
Lois
killed
dead.
Lois,
and Joker dead.
And Joker died.
Yeah, somehow that happened. Them two dead.
I felt like Injustice was taking that. Now, for those people who don't know, there's a show. Not a show. There's a comic called Kingdom Come. Mm-hmm. To me, one of the best comics about the DC universe growing up and being older, seeing older versions of themselves, to me. Mm-hmm. And the Injustice took that storyline a different way, where Lois dies and Superman leaves. Mm-hmm. Where basically Superman retires. Lois dies and Superman is like, humanity sucks, I'm out.
Yeah.
And he basically goes on a farm. He doesn't, but Injustice, Lois dies and he loses it. And I can understand that. As an angry person myself, I can understand that. But my problem with Warner Brothers is, and IMAX brings it up, I like Man of Steel, Justice League, Suicide Squad, Batman vs. Superman for me. I didn't hate it. I need to see the director's cut. They made some movies that made money without their marquee characters. My problem is that I don't mind that. But when you as a studio don't know what to do with the character, that's what bothers me. Because to me, because this is the thing that Bob, to me, what means you don't understand, and maybe this is because I'm too close. If you don't understand how to make a Superman movie, you don't understand what made Superman and superheroes great to begin with.
Yeah.
And to me, I've always looked at Superman kind of like Mr. Rogers. Mm-hmm. He's a man raised with a certain set of values that seems outdated to certain people. And to me, here's a perfect story. Oh, here it is. D. Steezel. Superman was drugged by Joker and Harley, which made him think Lois was Doomsday. Okay, so you were right. And he ends up killing Lois, and then he ends up killing. Yeah, okay. Thank you, D. Steezel. I couldn't remember, but I just remember this whole image in the comics, if you guys read the Injustice comics, of Superman punching through Joker and holding his heart in his hand, and Joker like looking down, and like Superman like,
I'm like, pushed him too far.
And Joker's like, and all I can think of is that you're probably wondering how I got here.
Right.
That monologue.
Wouldn't have done this. Yeah.
Like, that whole monologue. But this is what I have a problem with, and I kind of get on my soapbox a little bit. Superman, if you go back, we watched the original Superman by Richard Donner.
Never seen it in the theater. That was cool.
And so we saw it, and one of the things that you always saw was the kind of folksy way Clark handled himself. Mm-hmm. He had values that seemed out of date and out of touch to the bustle of a metropolis. And to me, in the day that we're living in, and I'm not getting political, but here's a man who is an immigrant, who is a journalist, trying his best to make his way in a world that does not value his belief system. And he literally has the power to do anything he wants. How do you not make that? How is that not interesting? Like, we live in an age where we had a documentary about Mr. Rogers, and we just had a movie by Tom Hanks by Mr. Rogers, and they were successful.
Yeah.
So how do you not take then one of the most recognizable characters in history, and not make a movie, and not understand that?
Well, again, like we always say, we don't go to the boardroom meetings, so we don't know what the higher ups are thinking.
I wish they would.
Oh man, yeah.
Warner Brothers.
Yeah, let us in your boardroom meetings so we can report it back to y'all.
Yeah.
What Marvel does, you got Kevin Feige. Mm-hmm. Even when he had his infighting with Perlmutter or whatever, it was still Kevin Feige over the movies. Mm-hmm. And it always seems like there are multiple people at Warner Brothers trying to make these movies,
Well, also,
as opposed to having just one person.
And I also think we discount some of the things that, and I think what I've learned working in this business, you've learned, when you're on a project that fails, you remember what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Feige was on the set of those Fantastic Four movies, some of those X-Men movies.
Yeah.
He was there to see those things. So, and he's a fan. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I don't like is that Warner Brothers hasn't figured out how to make that happen.
But didn't they have that in like their Jeff Johns? Because I felt like he and Kevin Feige were kind of PAs at the same time.
True, but Jeff Johns is a writer, is a comic writer. He's a good comic writer. But there's a difference between being a comic writer and help shepherding. And Zaylon Maru brings it up. Warner has a revolving door of leadership. They do. It's different from being a writer and not having control of the room like Kevin Feige does when you're just one of the people. Because Jeff Loeb was a comic writer, and you saw his comic influences in the Netflix shows.
Right.
He was in charge of the television department and you saw that. But him and Kevin Feige didn't get along, and when Kevin Feige assumed the leadership of overall Marvel and got his fifth stone, closed his hand, he snapped Jeff Loeb out of existence. And Jeff Loeb had to get the hell out.
Dust.
But that's the problem that I have. And if you go online, go to Twitter, you see a lot of comic writers, a lot of people within this business who have written comics who are like, you are stupid if you don't see the literal mirror. And this is the thing that I think Warner Brothers got right with Joker, but how do you get right with Joker and miss the boat on Superman? We're literally living in a time where Joker made $1 billion about a man who has mental illness, who is forgotten by the system, beat down by society. Mm-hmm. And he snaps. We see that every day. Mm-hmm. Superman is about a man who's an immigrant, who comes to this country, adopts our values, goes into journalism, and is arguing every day with the billionaire. Mm-hmm. It's just like, how do you not get that? How do you not make that story? Yeah. And so that's the problem that I have with Warner Brothers, in a sense of, to me, I'm not a huge Superman fan. I am a Batman fan. I will admit that. But I love the animated adventures with Tim Daly and then George Newbern. I love those. I love Justice League the cartoon. Mm-hmm. I loved Man of Steel. I enjoyed the Richard Donner Superman movies.
Did you read the Max Landis American Alien?
Yes, I own that.
Yeah, okay.
I did not. Now, I did like that, but All-Star Superman, mm-hmm. If you go back, somebody brought up a very good point on when our Watchmen review. All-Star Superman. D. Stiesel, you're right. Jeff Loeb has always been a hit or miss. He did the long kiss goodnight, and he did a Ultimates Captain America Falcon story I love. But then there's other things you're like, ooh. D. Stiesel, you're not gonna talk about Bendis. We're not gonna have that, sir. But one of the things that I always found, All-Star Superman is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Superman, I don't want to spoil it for you, but something happens with Superman. And it's basically 12 issues of him saying goodbye.
Okay.
And there's an issue where Lex Luthor literally gets the powers of Superman and feels how small he really is. And like he has this epiphany that he's like, oh my, like this is who you are, and I have been a fool. I'm a tool. Mm-hmm. And I think that's some of the things we need. All-Star Superman. Max Landis' Superman Alien. Mm-hmm. If you go back and look, all seasons for Superman, where he's just basically just saving the world, trying through. And that's the kind of thing I don't understand. You have the source material. How are you not adapting it? Joe Kelly did a Superman story where, I don't know if you knew, in the 90s, early 2000s, superheroes were edgy. They were killing people.
Yeah.
He had the authority, and they were like, oh, and we're going to take over the world, and we're going to show you how to do it. DC did they had this character called Manchester Black where they had these superheroes who were the antithesis of what Superman was.
Okay.
And Superman showed them it's if your values don't mean anything, if you can pick and choose when you follow them. And it was like, whoa, like it's one of those things where you're like, Superman is cool. And I think that's the problem that DC and Warner Brothers is having. How do we make Superman cool? You don't make Superman cool.
Because on paper he seems like
he's don't
like the first Captain America was.
Captain America is not cool.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Captain America ain't cool. But Captain America is that dude who stands in who says, these are my values and I'm not going to waver on them.
Right.
And that's literally the whole point of Captain America 1, 2, and 3. Do that with Superman. Mm-hmm. If I was at DC, I'm like, okay, Captain America did what?
Well, is it a concern that they are afraid of being like, oh, you just copied Captain America?
I think they don't honestly understand the character. I think and this is another thing. I think one of the problems that we have with Superman, and we saw it in the Richard Donner Superman, stop trying to make him this all-powerful guy. Don't let him run around the globe and change time. Mm-hmm. Make him a guy who has all these powers, who is struggling to keep his morals in the days of social media, who, he's trying to do the best he can. And I think that is lost on whoever's writing him in these movies. And John G. says, I think Superman is a hard sell because he's branded as invincible. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the problem. Don't make him this world powerful. Make him powerful. Yeah. Make him so that he can fly. But have him take a punch. You saw that in the animated adventures. Superman struggled. Yeah. He got beat up, right, and he got back up.
If to kind of wrap all this up and tie it back around, as much as it is for them to finding a difficulty making a Superman movie, there's also never been a good Superman game. No. And one of the issues is, how do you make it fun when you're like a god or invincible? Nobody's figured out what that magic formula is for a Superman.
And honestly, what I think what you can do is, if you take the mechanics, because as a lot of things, a lot of games, a lot of people hate Anthem. And I will give you, Anthem has a lot of problems. I liked it for the one thing it gave us. It gave us the ability to fly. And no other game in recent memory gave us that engine that allowed us to come down like Iron Man and fly around and lift off. Mm-hmm. Take those mechanics, take that physics, and put it in a Superman game. But go back and watch the animated adventures, the Superman animated adventures. Go back and watch and listen to how George Newbern talked. Watch how they treated Superman, and go back and watch those early cartoons and say, that's who you need on camera. That's the kind of person you need, this person. And I will say Superman is kind of a hard sell too, because his villains are, name 5 Superman villains.
Ooh, okay. Ooh. I'm not gonna look. Metallo, Bizarro, Lex Luthor, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk. Mm-hmm. That's 4.
That's the big one.
The big one wasn't Lex Luthor?
Brainiac.
Oh yeah, duh. See, yeah.
but see how long it took you to and those aren't really household names. Right. And I there's also a lot of, so I think Batman's villains are, someone said this, so I don't want to take credit. Batman's villains are literally pieces of himself. Yeah. So his rogues gallery, they're recognizable. You know who Two-Face is. You know who Joker is. You know who Harley Quinn is.
They have that iconic look. Yeah.
You don't have those in Superman. So that's part of the problem. He needs interesting, D-Steezel again, Zaylan Maru, got Zod.
Hey, Zaylan Maru, you ain't got to show me up knowing all these people, all right?
But John Donuts.
But yeah, you're right. There's a bunch of people.
He got guys like Mongol, Zod, Brainiac. You have these, but you got to make them interesting. You have to make them to the point where these are not just, you have to make it to where they're not just punching these people. You have to make it so that there's a reason why Superman is an iconic. When he said that, this means hope on my planet. Mm-hmm. I think Zack Snyder was on the right path. I think he was on the right path when you heard those things from old boy from Gladiator.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, when he was like, he'll be a god amongst them. Mm-hmm. He will lead them into that's who Superman really is. But he is still just a man who was doing his best in the face of uncertain obstacles, who will not give up. And that's what a hero is. And if you don't understand that, thank you, Clay Purtis, Superman versus the Elite. Thank you. That's what it's called.
Okay.
That's the movie version of it.
Okay.
The animated version, but that's what the comic was. I heard a lot of folks say the same thing about Cap. Those movies did a good job. And that's what I want to see. That's why people are arguing which was a better trilogy, Captain America or the Chris Nolan Batman movies. Because at the essence of their character, they were two men who could have just easily given up, walked away, acquiesced.
Yeah.
And that's what you need in a Superman movie. So I'm sorry, Warner Brothers. You get a womp, womp, womp. You have one of the world's most recognizable characters, and you're dropping the ball.
We're going to cut it there.
All right.
Because I got to go. Get on this plane.
Well, guys,
Leave y'all.
So I want to say thank you to everybody this week. So just to give you a little bit of housekeeping, I'm here all next week, but it's Christmas time. Michael's leaving. He's going. So he'll be gone all next week, except for when we do the Game Awards on Thursday. Hopefully we'll have 2 special guests, but I know we'll have at least one special guest. So we're going to be streaming from 8 to midnight Eastern time. So we'll be doing the Game Awards. The Game Awards says there's going to be 11 new video game reveals. They said Resident Evil 3 is not one of them. So we're going to be doing that. So you're going to always... somebody's going to be here. So we're going to do Monday. We're going to do Watchmen, but it'll probably be me, Avery, and Lauren, provided everybody comes to work. So we'll do the Nerd News wrap-up. That'll probably just be me. So that's just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to say thank you for everybody who was here. D. Steezel, Zayla Maru, IMAX, John Donuts, Clay Portis. Want to get to everybody in here. Ultra Instinct, Goku. I don't think I saw Miles Cage, so I hope everything's good with Miles Cage. My wife.
I'm going to say, did you say hey to Katie?
I didn't want to. Stop trying to sell my stuff. David Cooper, Antoine Allen, what's up? Scrolling through to make sure I got everybody. I think that's everybody. John G, Joe Greer. Oh, correct. Resident Evil was one of the scariest games until Dead Space came around, and I had to play that with the lights on. And the original Doom. I think that's it. So I want to say thank you guys. Have a great weekend, and everybody, try to be nice to each other. Let's end on a positive note. Let's try to be more Superman, more Mr. Rogers. Let's punch people in the face. We're out.